Okay, here we are, everybody. Welcome to Career Alchemy, the live broadcast that comes to you every week. I am your host, Lori Swanson, the CEO of Inspire Tech, the founder of Career Alchemy Academy, a membership community for women who are creating work that works for them and everyone else. If it works for me, it's going to work for everyone because I feel good what I'm doing, right? So I also want to welcome the YouTube people. We added a new channel just for fun. And so who knows if you're watching me on YouTube and this is your first time, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. And for those of you watching me on Facebook or on Instagram or LinkedIn, I also welcome you and I'm excited that you're here. Or if you're watching the recording, of course. So every week I talk about some sort of topic that's top of mind for me. I also like to make sure that um, people have access to Career Alchemy Academy with the QR code that you see over my shoulder now, the correct one. And that is the membership community. If you're interested, go read, all about it. If you have questions, you can DM me on LinkedIn or send me a message on Instagram or email me, and I'm happy to answer them. But we welcome you into the community. It is growing, it is different, and practical, tactical career advice, but also connected to your spiritual intelligence. So we really focus on how you feel, how you're thinking, and believe that we have access to higher wisdom that can guide us in the direction that's best for us in our lives and careers next. So that's kind of Career Alchemy Academy in a nutshell. So today, what I want to talk to you about, I have a question. Is your job search actually working? And how do you know? So I'm going to, here's how you can tell if it is or if it isn't working. This blog is inspired by the fact that, um, you know, I recognize I'm an entrepreneur, right? So this is my third business, one of which was an information technology search firm that I ran for over 25 years. And then I moved, I decided I was ready for different, I'm ready for something new. Actually took me a few years, just like most people, like the nudge is there, like I know I'm getting ready, not quite sure where I'm going to go. So did a lot of exploring, hired coaches, and got certified, and eventually closed down my recruiting business and went 100% into my career coaching business, which is where you find me today. And but it takes time, especially. Um, I don't think I was overconfident or I just didn't really have a sense of how long the new business was going to take me to build up. It's still in building mode, in fact. It requires a lot of different skills. It has its ups and downs and challenges, and especially, and I think it's a good thing, to tell you the truth. And I say this often with, you know, um, job searches bring out all kinds of things that were probably already under the surface, that job search or building a business and the ups and downs of a business. Let's say it's insecurities or again, this not fully believing in yourself, myself. And so that might be a been swirling around, but it hadn't really surfaced because I was in a career at that time where I really knew what I was doing. My other business, I'd done it for a long time. I knew what I was doing. That was part of why I was, the repetition of it had started to weigh on me and why I wanted to leave. But then I start building this new business, and I do. I absolutely had a lot of skills and abilities that I brought over, but it had been a long this is a different sort of business. This is an online business. It requires a lot of social media. I had no social media happening in my other business. I didn't need it. I had plenty of referrals. And so coming into this new business, um, the self-doubt surfaces, and is given an opportunity to be addressed and I guess I would say challenged. And so, like a job search, there may have been some self-doubts that you never really thought about. And now the job search has brought them up, and you get an opportunity to challenge those and create different thoughts and different feelings and different beliefs. But in the downs, it can really challenge what you believe about yourself, about your career, about your demand in the market. Like, the companies out there, are they going to want what you're serving up? Right. And I often felt like things were not working as I was building the business. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't sure if there was anyone out there listening. I don't even know that right now, as a matter of fact. I'm hoping more and more people, so tell everybody, just show up for Lori, listen to what she has to say. But I'm hopeful more and more people uh, will begin to listen to this broadcast and connect with me, connect with what I'm saying, and become part of the community of Career Alchemy Academy, because uh, that the larger community of um, women who are not only ambitious but differently ambitious, that not only um, believe in or feel good about the tactical, practical, strategic side, but also that sort of magical process that they can follow in their careers, where they can call in their intuition and call in signs and believe in the coincidences. That's something we're going to be working on actually next week inside of Career Alchemy Academy, is signs, coincidences, synchronicities, and connecting to divine guidance. So this, there's a lot that can happen when, and a lot that can come up when you're creating something new for yourself. And so, and a job search is very much like building a business. There's a lot of that same, I call it the belief triad. A lot of that same the different points of the belief triad are challenged. Your belief in yourself, your belief in your skills and your abilities, and a belief in the market. And so it can feel like you're walking up, a mountain, carrying a box of a 50-pound box of wet towels, right? It's hard, it's draining, it's uncomfortable. It steals your confidence and your belief in yourself, your abilities, if you're valuable to the market today. Is there a company out there that is in need of your skills and abilities right now? And how will they find you? I mean, all of that comes up. And sometimes it can feel like, especially if you've been applying to jobs for a little while, it can feel like there's no end in sight, because we really don't have control over when the offer is going to come. And that's kind of what we're talking about today, is how do you know if your job search is actually working? Here's how you can tell, is that, well, I'll get to that. So it can feel like there's no end in sight, because we don't actually know when the offer is going to come through. That is true. And so there's a point when I was ready to give up on building the business. I thought to myself, I can always go back to recruiting. I'm good at recruiting, and you may think that yourself, like, I could always go back to my old company, or I could always take a lower level job, or I could always, get out of tech, or the career path that I've been on, and just, talk to my financial advisor and see if I can retire earlier than originally planned. All of those thoughts are happening because you're losing belief and confidence in yourself and the market and your skills and abilities. And also because you're focused on these things that are out of your control. And that's one of the things I figured out, that as a CEO of my business and you as a CEO of your career, that there are many things that are in your control, but there are many things that are not in your control. So being able to recognize and differentiate between what's in your control and what's not in your control is the game changer. I mean, I think we know that, but it's not like, even if this is your first time here, this isn't stuff that you've never heard before, probably when I'm talking. But what I think is important is, are we really, we may know that there's stuff in our control and out of our control, but do we actually take time and focus on like what is in our control and what isn't in our control? And have we been spending time worrying and angsting over stuff that is out of our control? So I'm going to talk to you about three preparation steps you can take to ensure that your job search is working, and then an action step. So you're going to be shifting your focus from all those things that are outside of your control and moving towards things that are in your control. So how do you identify what is in your control? So here are things that are in your control. And this is related to a job search, but I'll also tell you, if like inside your career, if you're not on a job search, but you're actually, you know, relatively happily employed, but you also are feeling like things are not advancing, your career's not progressing as fast as you'd like it to be, you're not getting onto the glamour projects like you'd like to get onto, you aren't, you've recently gotten passed over for promotion or for a role or something like that. The same process applies. So what is in your control? If you're on a job search, like how many jobs you apply to is in your control. How many days you dedicate to your job search is in your control. How many people you connect with on LinkedIn, how many networking events you go to, how you set up the job tasks itself and schedule the job task itself. That's a big one. We know what we need to do, but we don't actually block out time for the different parts of the different types of activities that we have in our job search, and when we're going to do them, and then how we're going to do them, right? Have you, how many times you're commenting on other people's LinkedIn posts as a way to raise visibility inside of your job search. It's one of the key pillars that we work on inside of Career Alchemy Academy is visibility, and both on a job search, but also once you're in the job, and how you continue to build that relationship matrix and raise your visibility so you do get seen and heard and and sponsored for those career opportunities. So what else is in your control? How many people you've told that you're on a job search? Sometimes people, for whatever reasons, are shy, or maybe they're feeling some shame around the fact that they're on a job search because maybe they don't want to tell people they got laid off or something like that. And so I'm like, enough of that. Let's just bring out the megaphone and be like, hey, I'm available. Here's the magic that I can create for your company and your teams, and you want to talk to me. That's the thought I want you to get. And that, how you're taking care of your physical and mental self, your self-care is in your control. Classes in skill building and gap filling pursuits is also in your control. Are you showing up consistently for your job search? That's in your control. And then I already alluded to this, but probably the most important thing that's in your control that you forget is how you're thinking and feeling. So you get to choose what thoughts you're going to have about yourself, about your experience, and about the market. You get to decide how you're going to think about that. What isn't in control is the economy, is the political situations, um, uh, the if or when you'll get an offer is not in your control. The number of open jobs that fit your background is not in your control. The fact that you don't have a degree right now, or you don't have a certain skill set certification right now, could be considered out of your control. It's also, if it's something you want, then now you can also control when you get it. So I'm gonna, then I'm gonna pursue my MBA or my master's. I'm gonna sign up for this boot camp. I'm gonna get this certification. That becomes back in your control. But sometimes, people will be like, "Ah, I don't have a degree," as if they, number one, that it's a belief that because they don't have a degree, the company won't find other things that they have to offer valuable, or they don't have a degree and they never will, and that's only by choice. So how you're thinking about that is in your control. The fact that the transparency of the interview process, that's a big one, is not in your control. How much you can ask all the questions and then find out that you didn't get the job because of something, and you're like, I didn't even know that was required. So the transparency of the process is not in your control. And the other thing that's not in your control are other people. Other people are not in your control. So now that we know what's in our control, and let me just say, just for an example, some of those are very similar for like other people. But if you're inside of your career already, the things that are in your control are blocking out time on your calendar for certain tasks, how you decide to engage with people in your organization. Like, are you joining ERGs? Are you offering to mentor? Are you raising your hand for opportunities, or not raising your hand for invisible workload, which we talked about last week, the difference between invisible work and invisible workload. Are you networking both internally and externally, and continuing to network that? Often we really up level our networking when we're on a job search, and then be like, phew, got the job, now I'll focus on the work. And inside of Career Alchemy Academy, we call that delivery. So yes, the percent of time that you spend networking is going to go down, but it should not go to zero. You want to continue to create visibility for yourself in the market for a number of reasons. The other thing that's in your control is your workspace. Of course, your self-care is in your control. And I think that, like how you set up your workspace is often, within your control. If you have the ability to go into the office or work remotely, and you have that flexibility, then how you do that is in your control, or somewhat in your control. So these are things, and of course your thoughts are in your control. How you're thinking and feeling. We talk about the mindset model. It's a self-coaching tool that I also coach on, that offers that how you're feeling is because of how you're thinking. And so if you want to feel differently, let's find thoughts that have you feeling the way you want to feel, because you can always do that. Like, again, in your control, whether you want to keep going down the spiral, or if you want to step outside of that and find thoughts that have you feeling more confident, more at ease, more willing, more engaged, all of those things. You can do that. That's all in your control. And so we talked about making a list of the things that are step one, making a list of the things that are in your control, make the list of things that are not in your control. And then step three is when you notice that things are, that your energy is dipping, or that you're having sort of those unproductive thoughts, that when you notice that, you ask yourself, have I done everything that's in my control? Have I done the things that are within my control? Pull that list out, look at it, and be like, is there something on here that's in my control? Am I checking? And I can tell you, probably not. There are going to be many areas on that list, and you can keep adding to that list. It's fun to keep adding to, oh, that was in my control. When I actually fed myself lunch was in my control. When I responded to those emails was in my control. and so you start to keep adding to this list, and then you look and you're like, am I doing the things that are in my control with regards to job, to the job search, for example? Am I, um, have I applied to all the jobs I can apply to today? Have I reconnected with all the people I can reconnect to today? Have I, um, uh, investigated conferences? It's signed up for conferences. Like, have you done what's in your control? Because most of the time it'll be a no. So you're going to pull that list out. You're going to pick one thing to take action. That's the step 4, or the additional step is the action step. So take action on something on that list, because here's what I can tell you. The golden rule of job searching, of business building, of career building is consistency. That's what wins. That's what, it isn't huge leaps that can happen in a job search. It can happen, we call it in sales. When I first got into sales, we call it a bluebird. It's when you're doing all this other stuff and all of a sudden someone calls you, like I'm selling software at the time, and I get a call from, this was so great because it was like December 30th, end of the quarter, and I'm neck and neck, end of the year, I'm neck and neck with this other sales rep on the team. And I get a call, and it's, someone in my territory is saying, we need to use up $30,000, which would put me in the lead. And by tomorrow, like their budget was going to get taken away if they didn't use up this money. And I'm like, I'm in my car driving 2 hours almost to get to them so they can sign the contract, so they can spend the money and hand me a check so that I can, first of all, become salesperson of the year, which I may have done anyways, because I had some other stuff, but that came through. But this thing, it's the bluebird, it's the unexpected, right? And so that does happen. You're going to get the bluebirds, but I would say this, they knew about me because I had sent them materials. I've been consistent in my sales process. That's how they knew about me. So it is very possible that a job you applied for 6 months ago, that you interviewed for, went all the way to the end. This has also happened as a recruiter. I've had this happen more than once. You come in second, so to speak, and 6 months later, as you're, or let's say 3 months later, as you're continuing your job search, you get a call out of the blue and they're like, hey, that other person did not work out and you were, someone that we really wanted. We made a choice based on their industry experience, but you have everything else we need. Are you still interested and available? You do one call, you get the offer, and you start 2 weeks later. That's a bluebird, right? So that can happen. But again, there's consistency that fed the bluebird, so to speak. Consistency is the worm for the bluebird. And so consistency lets you track what's working. So if you've been, using a particular job board and you're never getting any response, maybe you just stop using that job board. That's just not working, right? But you need to give it time. But once you've given it enough time and you look at some of these activities, you can evaluate what's working, what's not working, what networking event has yielded some really good connections for you, what networking event you always walk away feeling empty-handed and, like it's not a fit. You win a few times, you gave it time, you were consistent with it, and then you can decide whether it's time well spent or not. It helps build your consistency, just helps build that momentum. It's like stacking on, small wins on top of each other. You do feel in control, like when you're consistent, consistently taking action on things that are within your control has you feeling like you have control, like it isn't out of your control. And even if the outcome isn't immediate, this consistency can give you that momentum and that control, and little small wins all along the way that keep feeding your motivation, right? And I think another really big thing when you think about consistency, consistency equals when, inconsistency equals if. So if you haven't consistently created an action plan based off of the things you can control, then it becomes, instead of when you're going to do something, it becomes if you're going to do it at all, right? When we're like, "Oh, I just don't feel like it today." But if you're committed to doing things in your control and you put those action steps into a schedule and you're following through and you are committed to consistency, it isn't about if you're going to do something, but it's just when, and you do it. Um, if leads to like decision fatigue, because if we have to decide every moment, will I work on this or will I work on that? They talk about the fact that our willpower is like a battery that starts fully charged when we get out of bed in the morning. And then every decision we make all day long drains that battery. And that's why some people think that it's if you put, working out at the end of your day, the chances are you won't work out because your battery is drained. Unless, of course, it's put into, you become committed and consistent with it. Then you don't need to rely on the willpower battery anymore. It's habit, right? And so that's what we're trying to move you out of this. If I'm going to do it, willpower battery use to when I'm going to do it. It's in there. It's in my control. I've scheduled it, and now it's habitual. Now it's habitual. So take those actions. So here's what I want you to go home with today: is make a list of the things that are in your control. Make a list of things that are out of your control. Focus on the things that are in your control. Put them into your calendar. Figure out, put some numbers by it, like how many applications, how much time. If you're inside of your job, same thing. What's in your control that would help you feel really good about your career, really good about the work you're doing, connected to your team. Figure all of that out so that you can, and that includes, okay, so, all right, I do think it's a good idea. It's in my control to join an employee resource group. I think it's a good idea, but I hadn't, it wasn't a when, it was like, if I'm going to do it, now it's become, yes, I'm going to do it. So when am I going to do it? Let's put it in the calendar. Because if the job hasn't, so you commit sort of daily to this, the things that are in your calendar, not necessarily perfectly, but you are consistently doing things, focusing on what you can do. And then because even if the job hasn't arrived yet or the promotion hasn't arrived yet, every consistent action you take brings you one step closer. We know that. And your job search, even your career, doesn't need you to control the outcomes. So hear that. It doesn't need you to control the outcomes. It just asks that you consistently show up for it and do what is in your control. So stay inspired. Make a list, commit to it, put it in the calendar, take action on it consistently, get up and just commit to being consistent. It's one commitment. Commit to being consistent, commit to putting it in your calendar and doing what you said you would do consistently. And then you will know that your job search is working for you. It will start to, you will start to bear fruit. And we're not attached to how long something takes. And we're not attached to, you know, uh, to feelings that have us, believing that no good things are happening for us, or that the external environment is creating, I mean, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying that you can choose to think and feel differently, and that brings a different energy into the consistency that you're working on in your job search. So stay inspired, stay consistent, take action, and uh, join Career Alchemy Academy. What the heck? I will consistently ask you to do that. Be ready. I should put that in my calendar. I will consistently ask you to join Career Alchemy Academy because I want more women coming in, inspiring and supporting each other at whatever place they are in their career, at whatever level, on a job search, considering a job search, in a career pivot inside and wanting to kick ass in their careers where they're at today, that's what happens inside of Career Alchemy Academy. So come join us. Talk to you soon.